November 9 by Colleen Hoover is one of the worst books I've ever read in my life. That might seem dramatic, but in the next little bit of time, you'll figure out exactly why I hate this book and why I think it's actually one of the worst things ever written. I would like to start off by saying that this will be filled with spoilers. My name is Andrea Silvestro. I mostly do music, but I've been reading recently and this book really pissed me off, so that's why I'm doing this video more so for myself. And if y'all want to watch and hate watch with me, then feel free to do that. But feel free to check out my music if you want, because that's mostly what I'm known for. This is the first video I've ever also done standing up, so we'll see how it goes. But let's get on to the reasons why this book is literally atrociously, horrendously, egregiously, horrendously bad. Atrocious. Shall we start with the beginning? Let's do this in sections. I have no plan. I'm just gonna rant in this video because I really have a lot to say about this book. So this book starts off on a horrible note. So I already hated the book from the very beginning because I was like, okay, this is stupid. And I've read Verity, It Ends With Us, It Starts With Us, or whatever it's called, by Colleen Hoover. So I already know like Colleen Hoover's style, and there's books that I don't hate. I liked It Ends With Us. I thought it was well done. Not the best written book in the world, but like, I don't think it needs to be. And Verity was really interesting. It was kind of like weird, had some plot holes and things that didn't make sense. But overall, I had to read that in like a day because I was so interested by the story. This book legit is horrendous because I think it's super boring and I hate the characters. So to start off, this follows the story of Fallon, who is our main character, and Ben, because it's written from both of their perspectives. They switch off in each chapter really at that point. So Fallon is a burn victim, and one thing I really hate about Colleen Hoover, she takes trauma and she morphs it into a plot line instead of actually fully understanding and delving into that trauma, what it could be, how life would be if you were existing with this trauma. So she's a burn victim. She got completely burnt half of her body in a fire, and she's dealing, obviously, which makes sense, with a lot of confidence issues because of it, because she's dealing with navigating her life post being an actress. She lost everything because of how her parents changed. Really depressing. I understand her whole problem. I get it, like that's hard. She's kind of having to grapple with the fact that things are changing because of how she looks, and she can't really change that. That's the industry. So she's at lunch with her dad like a year or 2 years after the fire on November 9th, the big day, and Ben like butts into their conversation and he kind of wants to make her feel desirable because like when he sees her, he's staring at her, thinks she's beautiful, whatever, which like honestly the whole thing is just insane to me. So he comes up to her, he's like talking to her, pretending to be her fake boyfriend, so her dad kind of can see that she still has options, her life's not completely over after the fire, trying to prove a point. And then they spend the day together. It's magical, even though I think Ben is super immature, super controlling, super weird. So like already starting off, I'm like, why are you butting into people's business first? Second, like, you're making this girl try to feel better about herself, and I don't even know where we get into it, but he like guilt trips her into thinking that she should be grateful to be alive, like she shouldn't be just so sad about her appearance. And I think it was so insensitive when I saw him saying that kind of things, and he was trying to like change her mind about how she saw herself just by being like some random guy. She spent what, like 8 hours with him, and he's expecting her to just be totally like healed in terms of confidence issues that she's been grappling with for 2 years. I was like, who are you? And like, can you please go home, Ben? Because the audacity of men to think that complimenting you one time can just fix all your confidence problems is insane, and I hated it very much. I just was very demeaning and very freaking rude and controlling to me. I hated it. Ugh. So we have that, and then they decide to go on with this stupid thing. Like, I honestly, like, the whole premise of this book is like so garbage because it's so childish. Like, he's talking about her when he first met her, all he wanted to know was her panties color, and I'm like, I get that you guys are 18, but it just felt so cringe. I'm like, bro, this is so immature. I like am too old for this random writing. But so yeah, so we're having that, but they decide upon the great idea of every November 9th, they're gonna meet up once a year, but they won't have contact for the whole year because Fallon's moving and he's just so amazing that he doesn't want to distract her or change her life trajectory. I'm like, this is also audacious that you think that you existing for 8 hours is gonna convince her to stay in LA. It's like, oh, we can't speak because I'm just so amazing, like Fallon might change her life course because of me. I'm like, okay, bro. So he comes on, he's a writer, he's like, oh, I'll turn it into a book. I'm like, okay. So they decide to meet up every November 9th in this restaurant at the same time, and I'm like, there's no way. If I was gonna do this with someone and I had no contact with them, I would never be showing up because she lives in New York now, he lives in LA, like, I would never be showing up for this man, because what if he's not there? Like, it's just so stupid. And like, you can't, they block each other on all socials. I'm like, y'all for real can't contact each other at all? Like, are you freaking serious? It was so stupid. So that like is basically the first part of it, and it's just the chapters are basically just every November 9th. And we're supposed to believe that she's just in love with him in like one November 9th, and she spends the whole year thinking about just him and all that. And I'm like, okay, he's really not all that. If anything, he's just super immature and whack, and seems to be fetishizing you because he like cannot accept the fact that you can't find yourself to be beautiful. And like, he's trying to convince her to wear these things that she doesn't want to wear. And I'm like, let her live, for the love of gosh. It's so whack. What else happens? I don't even remember at this point. It was just so stupid. Then we get to the 2nd November 9th, after all that random buildup, and for whatever reason she's thinking about him all the time in the year. I'm like, girl, like, I could not. And they're like still into each other even though they've not spoken at all, and they spent like 5 hours together total. It's like actually obscene to me. I'm like, y'all are insane. But they meet up, whatever, her flight's delayed, all that. And then like his brother punches him in the face when she's at his house, and she's just like, whoa, what the heck? And we get that explained to us later. But like, that's literally all that happens. There's some like weird moments where he tries to make her feel pretty and like acts like, it's just weird to me how her confidence is magically shifting and improving because of a man. I just felt like that was a really bad message overall, that you can feel better about yourself because of a guy's compliments, etc. Like, it's nice to have that, but that shouldn't be the sole reason why you suddenly love yourself. I feel like this is such a effed up version of what burn victims go through, and I just thought it was just poorly written and just using burn victims as a plot point. I just don't feel like they're represented very well in this book, and it just pissed me off, if I'm being quite honest. Okay, so we move on to the 3rd November. Like, do you understand why I hate this book? Like, there's just nothing interesting. You guys seriously can't talk to. It's just so ridiculous, the whole premise. Like, you have to meet up once a year at the same place, and like, oh, we're not going to talk to each other at all, and like, we're going to accidentally fall in love at the end. But like, why? You guys have spent like 8 hours together. Why are we having this grand commitment for no reason? It's so stupid. And like, Ben is just like on my last nerve all the time, super manipulative, super controlling, like super irritating. I just hate him very much. Like, the whole time that I was watching and reading, I was just so mad, and it just felt like he was using her and using her insecurities and just like preying on them. Oh yeah, so then we get on to the next chapter. His brother randomly in a car accident, Ben's brother, and she flies out to see him, and then they decide that they're gonna end up sleeping together. He's like, oh, we're gonna be together, and then she decides, oh, I can't do that because he needs to finish his stupid book. And I'm like, are you guys serious? So she like leaves and flees in the middle of it, and she's like, oh, it'll be better for him, whatever. And then she still is like deciding that she's gonna meet up with him the next November. It's just, the whole thing is weird to me. I don't understand. She basically leaves randomly, and she's like, oh, we can't be together, da da da. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, so they end on really bad terms that last year, and that's what happens. Then we get on to the next year. Fallon has actually moved back to LA, which is where they both live, and he pulls up with his nephew, and the tea is, so his brother died, and he apparently starts dating his brother's ex-wife. I'm like, or widowed wife. I'm like, that's actually so whack. I'm like, okay. So she finds out, and then she gets like all upset because he's dating someone new, and it's really hurtful to her. And I think it's whack how he's dating his brother's ex-wife, like his widowed wife. That whole plot point was really weird to me. I did not understand at all. I'm like, okay, whatever. So that's the end of the next November. Then it's the next November, the 5th November. Oh yeah, the next November, basically Fallon's angered and she's with this other guy at the club, and then freaking Ben just shows up, Ben the stalker. I just think it's super whack how he's always pulling up for real. I just don't understand. Like, let her live, and my gosh, and she's always so worried about him and his writing thing, but I'm like, okay, whatever. So basically, he steals her from the guy that she's with that night. They have a whole moment, and whatever. Then she finds the manuscript he's been writing, and this is where it all flips a bit, and this is the part where actually it solidified how much I hated this book, because I already thought the book was stupid. I already hated the main characters. They were just super irritating. And Fallon deserves better than just being told that she has to view herself as beautiful. She deserves better than having to be seen and perceived as perfectly fine after all the events. Like, she's allowed to have her growth. She's allowed to have her story, a line of kind of gaining her confidence back in a timely manner. I just think it's stupid that he's trying to expedite this process for his own selfish desires. But she's allowed to have her healing process. And I feel like the healing journey is being covered up by Colleen Hoover just trying to make this love story happen. But yeah, so this is the part where I like actually get angered. So she's reading the manuscript of whatever he's been writing for November 9th, and it gets revealed that Ben's mom decided to, which was really upsetting, but he tries to like find out why, and he finds like these emails from Fallon's dad, who's like this actor, and I guess they were dating, and he thought it was because of that, but it ends up not being because of that. But because of that, he goes to the guy's house, he like burns it down, but he doesn't know that Fallon is upstairs, and he then finds out that there was a girl in the house. So this kind of shook me, because I thought that maybe he was coming from the place of one of his family members died from a fire, and he was like putting that onto her and being like, oh, well, you should be grateful that you're alive. That speech is insane. Like, he basically was like, oh, you shouldn't feel bad about yourself, you should be grateful to be alive. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But I thought that was coming from the fact that he lost a family member or something, and he's like, oh, I'm just pushing my trauma onto her, which I was already pissed off about. But no, he actually started the fire that hurt her, and then he's always like been wondering how she looked, how badly it was, how bad it was. So like, he's always been curious like how bad her injuries were, how much worse she looks now. So when he sees her on accident at the restaurant or whatever, was it on accident that they even met up? I don't even remember. I think so. Like, I think he was just there and then like it happened. I don't freaking know. Well, anyways, when they meet, it's like he basically was just looking at her, staring at her, trying to survey the damage. And he always talks about how like he was so worried about what he did to her. I just find it so irritating that he literally caused these scars to this girl, and he's still like trying to be in her life, like pretending he really likes her. Not pretending, allegedly he does, but he's like saying he really likes her, all this and that. But at the end of the day, it just to me seems like he likes her and he's making her feel better about herself because he's grappling with his own personal guilt about what he did to her, because he already has in his mind that, oh, like this is the poor girl that I hurt, all this and that, and he's like, I can't believe I did this to her. He feels already so sorry, but he's then lying to her about what he did, what he knows about what happened to her. And I just think that's completely psychopathic and despicable of him to do. And the fact that she read this manuscript and then was like, oh, I'm so sorry you went through so much, is insane to me, because if someone was keeping that secret from me, I would never trust them again, because that means, first off, they're okay with lying to you all the time. Two, you can never trust them because you don't know if it's because they just feel guilty about what they did or if they actually view you as beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think there's so much there that would make me never be able to trust the person again. So I'm honestly floored by the time when she finishes reading and learns all this information, she was willing to take him back. So then in the end, they end up together, which I think is so screwed up, because first off, they've spent like 24 hours together in the course of 5 years, and they're like claiming to be in love with each other, but the whole time he's been keeping this very insanely huge secret that maybe she would have never found out if not for reading that manuscript. So at that point, it's not like he told her, it's like she found out and then he had to kind of confess at that point. So to me, this book just sucks, because why would we ever want them to be together? She literally is suffering from what he did to her. He kept it a secret, then he basically just manipulated the whole situation, and of course somehow ends up with the girl. I feel like this is such a horrendous book for every reason. It's boring, the concept is stupid, it's very juvenile, it's very like immature in general, and then at the end of the day, like, what do we learn from this? Like, I don't learn anything from this that's actually of use, that's valuable. I feel like burn victims are kind of getting portrayed in a way that's not actually how they are. They're getting kind of shamed somewhat for even feeling bad about how they look. Like, it seems like, oh, you should be okay with being alive. Basically, like, Ben's whole speech about how you should be fine with looking like this because at least you're alive was actually insane to me. When I read it, I was like, there's no way this man is basically claiming these things that he doesn't understand and telling her she should not even be feeling the way she does. I thought that was beyond insane to me, and I thought it was beyond rude and disrespectful and very misogynistic, if I'm being quite honest. So that is another reason I hated it. Also, I just think it's not very endearing if my boyfriend caused my scars and then I find out on accident, and then how do you explain that to people? Boo. This book sucks. I hated it very much. The whole premise everything is horrendous. Like, I don't think there's any redeeming qualities in this book. If anything, I feel bad for Fallon because poor girl is dealing with like an actual controlling, manipulative, freaking obsessive man. So that's all I have to say. I feel like I have a lot more I could add. Maybe I will. But at this point, I just don't want to even like look at this book again. Like, I don't even ever want to see it again. It was so bad. People, oh my gosh, this is my rant at the end. The people who rated this a 5 stars on Goodreads, what is wrong with you? Because I was like, oh, this book sucks, but why is it rated a 4 point something on Goodreads? Because I'm sorry, but if you read this and liked it, then I don't trust your judgment in anything, because this book sucks. It's horrendous. Like, if you can please explain to me why you think this book is good, I would love that, because I don't think it is at all. I think there's no redeeming qualities at all. Plot boring, storyline boring, characters horrendous, Ben manipulative. Like, please tell me if you like this book, why, because I don't see it. Please, guys, please get better taste in literature, or like read something on Wattpad. I've read way much better things on Wattpad that actually had like a cute love story, that weren't just using trauma as a plot point to give it some little extra oomph. I hate it. It's horrendous, but that's all I have to say. I'm so sorry if I repeated myself, but I've just been feeling a lot of anger in my heart because of this book, and I think just portrays everything horrendously badly. And Kyle, for no reason, like, and him getting with the girl, his wife, is like insane. Like, are you guys for real? Are you for real? So yeah, thank you so much for listening to me rant. If you related or agreed or wanted to add to anything, feel free to talk about it in the comment section. I would love to know everyone else's hate points. Like, I could probably go in with the exact quoting, guys, but if I'm being quite honest, I'm trying my best to forget this. I read this 3 days ago, and already some of the plot points are all like blending together, but that's all I have to say about this book. And if you liked it, I'm side-eyed you majorly. I'm not even trying to shame, but like, I just don't understand. But yeah, thank you so much for watching me rant, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
This city's never had something for me, as you know from all of my stories.